Hello. This week is National Storytime Week, so I thought I would start telling some stories, or at least beginning some stories. And the first one I'm going to read is the first Enid Blyton mystery book I ever read when I was about maybe 6 or 7, The Mystery of the Burnt Cottage. And I'm just about to lend this to Amy because she's doing a study of children's literature for our English A-level. So before I lend it to her, I'm going to read it to you. And we're going to start with the first chapter. I might read the first couple of chapters, depends how the time goes. And this is called The Burning Cottage. It was at 9:30 on a dark April night that all the excitement began. The village of Peterswood was perfectly quiet and peaceful, except for a dog barking somewhere. Then suddenly, to the west of the village, a great light flared up. Larry Dakin was just getting into bed when he saw it. He had pulled back his curtains so that the daylight would wake him, and he suddenly saw the flare to the west. "Golly, what's that?" he said. He called to his sister, "Daisy! I say, come here and look. There's a funny flare-up down in the village somewhere." His sister came into the bedroom in her nightdress. She looked out of the window. "It's a fire," she said. "It looks pretty big, doesn't it? I wonder what it is. Do you think it's someone's house on fire?" "We'd better go and see," said Larry, excited. "Let's get dressed again. Mummy and Daddy are busy, so they won't know anything about the fire. Come on, let's hurry." Larry and Daisy dressed quickly and then ran down the stairs and out into the dark garden. As they went down the lane, they passed another house and heard the sound of hurrying footsteps coming down the drive there. "It's Pip, I bet," said Larry, and shone his torch down the drive. The light picked out a boy about his own age, and with him a small girl of about 8. "Hello, Bets, you coming too?" called Daisy, surprised. "I should have thought you'd have been asleep." "Larry," called Pip, "it's a fire, isn't it? Whose house is burning, do you think? Will they send for the fire engine?" "The house will be burnt down before the firemen come all the way from the next village," said Larry. "Come on, it looks as if it's down Haycock Lane." They all ran on together. Some of the villagers had seen the glare too, and were running down the lane as well. It was exciting. "It's Mr. Hick's house," said a man. "Sure as anything it's his house." They all poured down to the end of the lane. The glare became higher and brighter. "It's not the house," cried Larry. "It's the cottage he works in the garden, his workroom. Golly, there won't be much left of it." There certainly wouldn't. The place was old, half timbered and thatched, and the dry straw of the roof was blazing strongly. Mr. Goon, the village policeman, was there, directing men to throw water on the flames. He saw the children and shouted at them, "Clear off, you! Clear off!" "That's what he always says to children," said Bets. "I've never heard him say anything else." It wasn't the least use throwing pails of water on the flame. The policeman yelled for the chauffeur. "Where's Mr. Thomas? Tell him to get out the horse-pipe he uses to clean the car." "Mr. Thomas has gone to fetch the master," shouted a woman's voice. "He's gone to the station to meet the London train." It was Mrs. Minns, the cook, speaking. She was a very comfortable-looking person who was in a very scared state now. She filled pails of water from a tap, her hands trembling. "It's no use," said one of the villagers. "Can't stop this fire now. It's got too big a hold." "Someone's phoned for the fire engine," said another man. "But by the time it gets here, the whole place will be gone." "Well, there's no fear of the house catching," said the policeman. "Wind's in the opposite direction, luckily. My word, what a shock for Mr. Hick when he comes home." The 4 children watched everything with excitement. "It's a shame to see such a nice little cottage go up in flames," said Larry. "I wish they'd let us do something, throw water, for instance." A boy about the same size as Larry ran up with a pail of water and threw it towards the flames, but his aim was bad, and some of it went over Larry. He shouted at the boy, "Hey, you! Some of that went over me! Look what you're doing, for goodness sake!" "Sorry, old boy," said the boy in a funny drawling sort of voice. The flames shot up and lit the whole garden well. Larry saw that the boy was plump, well dressed, and rather pleased with himself. "He's the boy who's come to live with his father and mother in the hotel opposite," said Pip in a low voice to Larry. "He's awful. He thinks he knows everything and has so much pocket money he doesn't know what to do with it." The policeman saw the boy carrying the pail. "Here, you," he yelled. "Clear off. We don't want children getting in the way." "I am not a child," said the boy indignantly. "Can't you see I'm helping?" "You clear off," said Mr. Goon. A dog suddenly appeared and barked round the policeman's ankles in a most annoying way. Mr. Goon was angry. He kicked out at the dog. "This your dog?" he called to the boy. "Call him off." The boy took no notice, but went to get another pail of water. The dog had a wonderful time around Mr. Goon's trousered ankles. "Clear off," said the policeman, kicking out again. Larry and the others chuckled. The dog was a nice little thing, a black Scotty, very nimble on his short legs. "He belongs to that boy," said Pip. "He's a topping dog, absolutely full of fun. I wish he was mine." A shower of sparks flew up into the air as part of the straw roof fell in. There was a horrible smell of burning and smoke. The children moved back a little. There came the sound of a car down the lane. A shout went up, "Here's Mr. Hick!" The car drew up in the drive by the house. A man got out and ran down the garden to where the burning cottage stood. "Mr. Hick, sir, sorry to say your workroom is almost destroyed," said the policeman. "Did our best to save it, sir, but the fire got too big to hold. Any idea what caused the fire, sir?" "How am I to know?" said Mr. Hick impatiently. "I've only just got back from the London train. Why wasn't the fire engine sent for?" "Well, sir, you know it's in the next town," said Mr. Goon, "and by the time we knew of the fire, the flames were already shooting through the roof. Do you happen to know if you had a fire in the grate this morning, sir?" "Yes, I did," said Mr. Hick. "I was working here early this morning, and I had kept the fire in all night. I was burning wood, and I dare say that after I left, a spark flew out and set light to something. It may have smouldered all afternoon without anyone knowing. Where's Mrs. Minns, my cook?" "Here, sir," said poor trembling Mrs. Minns. "Oh, sir, this is a terrible thing, sir. You never liked me to go into your work cottage, sir, so I didn't go in, or I might have seen that a fire was starting." "The door was locked," said the policeman. "I tried it myself before the flames got round to it. Well, there goes the last of your cottage, sir." There was a crash as the half-timbered walls fell in. The flames rose high, and everyone stepped back, for the heat was terrific. Then Mr. Hick suddenly seemed to go mad. He caught hold of the policeman's arm and shook it hard. "My papers," he said in a shaking voice. "My precious old documents. They were in there. Get them out, get them out." "Now, sir, be reasonable," said Mr. Goon, looking at the furnace not far from him. "No one can save anything at all. They couldn't from the beginning." "My papers!" yelled Mr. Hick, and made a dart towards the burning workroom, as if he meant to search in the flames. 2 or 3 people pulled him back. Now, sir, don't do anything silly," said the policeman anxiously. "Were they very valuable papers, sir?" "Can't be replaced," moaned Mr. Hicks. "They are worth thousands of pounds to me." "Hope they're insured, sir," said a man nearby. Mr. Hick turned to him wildly. Yes, they're insured, but money won't repay me for losing them." Bets didn't know what being insured was. Larry told her quickly. "If you have anything valuable that you're afraid might be stolen or burned, you pay a small sum of money to an insurance company each year, and then, if it does happen to be destroyed, the company will pay you the whole cost of your valuable belongings." "I see," said Bets. She stared at Mr. Hick. He still seemed very upset indeed. She thought he was a funny-looking man. He was tall and stooping, and had a tuft of hair that stuck out in front. He had a long nose and eyes hidden behind big spectacles. Bets didn't much like him. "Clear all these people away," said Mr. Hick, looking at the villagers and the children. "I don't want my garden trampled down all night long. There's nothing anyone can do now." "Right, sir," said Mr. Goon, pleased at being able to clear off so many people at once. He began to walk towards the watching people. "Clear off," he said. "Nothing to be done now. Clear off, you children. Clear off, everyone." The flames of the cottage were burning low now. The fire would burn itself out, and that would be the end. The children suddenly felt sleepy after their excitement, and their eyes smarted with the smoke. "Pooh, my clothes do smell of smoke," said Larry, disgusted. "Come on, let's get back home. I wonder if Mummy and Daddy are looking for us." Larry and Daisy walked up the lane with Pip and Bets. Behind them, whistling, walked the boy with the dog. He caught them up. "That was a real thrill, wasn't it?" he said. "Good thing no one was hurt. I say, what about meeting tomorrow, having a game or something? I'll be in the hotel opposite Mr. Hick's garden. My mother and father will be out playing golf." "Well," said Larry, who didn't particularly like the look of the boy, "well, if we're anywhere about, we'll pick you up." "Right," said the boy. "Come on, Buster. Home, boy." The little Scotty, who'd been circling round the children's legs, ran to the boy. They disappeared into the darkness. "Conceited creature," said Daisy, speaking of the boy. "Why should he think we want to know him? I say, let's all meet in your drive tomorrow, Pip, and go down to see what's left of the village, shall we?" "Right," said Pip, turning in at his drive with Bets. "Come on, Bets. I believe you're nearly asleep." Larry and Daisy went on up the lane to their own home. They yawned. "Poor Mr. Hick," said Daisy. "Wasn't he upset about his precious old papers?" I'm going to go on and read the second chapter because we do find out about the people in the group then. It's called The 5 Find Outers and Dog. The next day, Larry and Daisy went to see if Pip and Bets were anywhere about. They could hear them playing in the garden, and they shouted to them, "Pip, Bets, we're here!" Pip appeared, followed by the much smaller Bets, panting behind him. Seen the burnt-up cottage this morning?" asked Larry. "Yes, and I say, what do you think? They say somebody burned it down on purpose, that it wasn't an accident after all," said Pip, excited. "On purpose?" said Larry and Daisy. "But whoever would do a thing like that?" "Don't know," said Pip. "I overheard somebody talking about it. They said that the insurance people had been down already, and some fire expert they brought with them said that petrol had been used to start up the fire. They've got some way of finding out these things, you know." "Golly," said Larry, "but who would do it? Somebody that didn't like Mr. Hick, I suppose." "Yes," said Pip, "I bet old Clear-Off is excited to have a real crime to find out about. But he's so stupid he'll never find out a thing." "Look, there's that dog again," said Bets, pointing to the little black Scotty appearing in the garden. He stood sturdily on his squat legs, his ears cocked, looking up at them as if to say, "Mind me being here?" "Hello, Buster," said Larry, bending down and patting his knee to make the dog come to him. "You're a nice dog, you are. I wish you were mine. Daisy and I have never had a dog." "Nor have I," said Pip. "Here, Buster. Bone Buster. Biscuit Buster." "Woof," said Buster, in a surprisingly deep voice for such a small dog. You must get him a bone and a biscuit," said Bets. "He's trusting you and believing in you, Pip. Go and get them for him." Pip went off with the squat little Scotty trotting beside him trustingly. Soon they were back, Buster carrying a bone and a big biscuit in his mouth. He set them down on the ground and looked inquiringly at Pip. "Yes, they're for you, old chap," said Pip. "He's not a bit of a greedy dog, is he? He waits to be told before he begins." Buster crunched up the bone and then swallowed the biscuit. They seemed to fill him with joy, and he began to caper round and about all the children, inviting them to chase him. They all thought him a wonderful little dog. "It's a pity he has such a silly master," said Larry. Everyone giggled. Just as they were chuckling, they heard the sound of footsteps and saw Buster's master coming to join them. "Hello," he said. "I thought I heard you playing with Buster. Buster, what do you mean by running off like that? Come here." Buster bounced over to him in delight. It was quite plain that he adored the plump boy who owned him. "Heard the news?" asked the boy, patting Buster, "about someone having set fire to that workroom on purpose?" "Yes," said Larry. "Pip told us. Do you believe it?" "Rather," said the boy. "As a matter of fact, I suspected it before anyone else did." "Fibber," said Larry at once, knowing by the conceited tone of the boy's voice that he hadn't suspected anything of the sort. "Well, look here," said the boy. "I've been staying in the hotel opposite Mr. Hick's garden, and last evening I saw a tramp wandering about there. I bet he did it." The others stared at him. "Why should he do it?" asked Pip at last. "Tramps don't go in and pour petrol over things and set them on fire just for fun." "Well," said the boy, thinking hard, "this tramp may have had a spite against Mr. Hick. You can't tell. Mr. Hick hasn't got a very good name about here for being good-tempered. He may have kicked the old tramp out of the place or something that very morning." The others thought about this. "Let's go into the summer house and talk," said Pip, feeling excited. "This is a sort of mystery, and it would be fun if we could help to solve it." The boy with Buster walked into the summer house too, without being asked. Buster scrambled onto Larry's knee. Larry looked pleased. "What time did you see the tramp?" asked Pip. "About 6 o'clock," said the boy. "A dirty old fellow he was too, in a torn mackintosh and a frightful old hat. He was skulking along the hedge. Buster saw him and tore out barking." "Did you notice if he had a tin of petrol in his hand?" asked Larry. "No, he hadn't," said the boy. "He'd got a stick of some sort, that's all." "I say," said Daisy suddenly, "I say, I've got an idea." They all looked at her. Daisy was a great one for ideas, and usually she had good ones. "What's the idea this time?" asked Larry. "We'll be detectives," said Daisy. "We'll set ourselves to find out who burned the cottage." "What's a detective?" asked 8-year-old Bets. "It's somebody who solves a mystery," said Larry. "Somebody who finds out who does a crime." "Oh, a find-outer," said Bets. "I'd love to be that. I'm sure I would make a very good find-outer." "No, you're too little," said Pip. Bets looked ready to cry. "We 3 older ones will be proper detectives," said Larry, his eyes shining. "Pip, Daisy and me, the 3 great detectives." "Can't I belong?" said the fat boy at once. "I've got plenty of brains." The others looked at him doubtfully. His brains didn't show in his face anyway. "Well, we don't know you," said Larry. "My name is Frederick Algernon Trotterville," said the boy. "What are your names?" "Mine is Lawrence Dakin," said Larry, "and I'm 13. "Mine's Margaret Dakin, and I'm 12, said Daisy. "I'm Philip Hilton, aged 12, and this is Elizabeth, my baby sister," said Pip. The boy stared at them. You're none of you called by your names, are you?" he said. "Larry for Lawrence, Pip for Philip, Daisy for Margaret, and Bets for Elizabeth. I'm always called Frederick." For some reason this seemed funny to the others. The boy spoke in a drawling, affected kind of voice, and somehow the name of Frederick Algernon Trotterville just seemed to suit him. "F for Frederick, A for Algernon, T for Trotterville," said Pip suddenly with a grin. "F-A-T! It could be a nickname." Frederick Algernon Trotterville looked rather cross at first. Then he gave a grin. "Your parents ought to have known better than to give you 3 names whose initials spelt Fat," said Daisy. "Poor old Fatty." Frederick Algernon sighed. He knew quite well that from now on he would be Fatty. He gazed at the little company of 4 friends. "Can I belong to the detective club?" he asked. "After all, I did tell you about a tramp." It isn't a club, said Larry. It's just us three older ones banding together to solve a mystery. And me too, cried Bets. Oh, do say I can too. You're not to leave me out. Don't leave her out, said Fatty unexpectedly. She's only little, but she might be some use. And I think Buster ought to belong too. He might be awfully good at smelling out hidden things. What hidden things? Said Larry. Oh, I don't know, said Fatty vaguely. You simply never know what you're going to find when you begin to solve a mystery. Oh, let's all belong, Fatty and Buster too, please, cried Bets. Buster felt the excitement and began to whine a little, pawing at Larry with a small black foot. The three bigger ones felt much more inclined to let Fatty join them once they realised that Buster could come too. For Buster's sake, they were willing to have Fatty, Conceited and the rest. Buster could be a sort of bloodhound. They felt certain that real detectives, who solved all sorts of mysteries, would have a bloodhound. Well, said Larry, we'll all belong and try to solve the mystery of the burnt cottage. We're the 5 find-outers and dog, said Bets. Everyone laughed. What a silly name, said Larry. But all the same, it stuck, and for the rest of those holidays, and for a very long time after, the 5 find-outers and dog used that name continually for themselves. I know all about police and detectives, said Fatty. I'd better be the head of us. No, you won't, said Larry. I bet you don't know any more than the rest of us. And don't think that we're so stupid as not to see what a very good opinion you've got of yourself. You might as well make your mind up straight away that we shan't believe half the tall stories you tell us. As for being head, I shall be. I always am. That's right, said Pip. Larry's clever. He shall be the head of the bold find-outers. All right, said Fatty ungraciously. I suppose it's 4 against 1. Blow, is that 12:30? Yes, it is. I must go. Meet here this afternoon, sharp at 2, said Larry. We will discuss the finding of clues then. Clues? Said Bets, not hearing the word properly. Oh, that sounds exciting. Are glues sticky? Idiot, said Pip. What use are you going to be in the find-outers? I simply can't imagine. And there we shall leave the 5 find-outers, but you can guess that Bets really was helpful in the end, and it would be really good to carry on with some, but we're not having any more of that right now. And tomorrow maybe somebody else would like to do a story and share it with all of us. And we'll do this for each day of National Storytelling Week. And I do have to warn you that if nobody else does choose to read one, then I may just have to do it myself.